Hey everyone, welcome back to the BioNexus Health Podcast. We will be discussing Lyme disease, mold, Candida, and much more today with Sherry from New Jersey. She has kindly agreed to speak to us about her absolutely fantastic progress after many years of illness. We are speaking about issues with mold toxicity, Candida overgrowth, histamine intolerance, mast cell activation, oxalate sensitivity, um, food sensitivities, severe pain in joints, in multiple joints in the body, and uniquely severe stabbing pain, migrating from the liver area to the neck to the hip. And it was just, for many years, a lot of suffering and of course, many treatments were tried, and until we got down to the root cause. And we were able to help Sherry make a remarkable recovery on a completely naturopathic herbal protocol. So let's welcome Sherry to today's podcast and just, hear it right from her.
Welcome to the BioNexus Health Podcast with Dr. Jody A. Dashore, who holds a PhD in integrative medicine, is board certified in integrative pediatrics, an internationally recognized pioneering clinician, and author. And now here's your host of BioNexus Health Podcast, Dr. Jody A. Dashore.
So Sherry, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, good to have you on the podcast today. We are not live. We're just recording. I haven't experimented with live yet. I'm not great with technology. So
You and me both.
Well, so today, this is all about helping others watching to, with inspiration and encouragement. And you've been through so much for so long, and it would be, wonderful to hear your story in your own words. Like when you first came to me, I remember, and I mentioned a little bit of that in the intro as well to the podcast, that, you had mold and Lyme and Candida, co-infections, and, a lot of issues. So would you be able to speak a little bit about what problems you were having?
Sure. No problem. I guess I'll start from the beginning.
Yes, of course.
So I guess it was about 6 years ago or so that I started getting sort of strange symptoms that, and I didn't really know where they were coming from. I started getting very sensitive to a lot of foods that I was eating. And I was getting migrating pain, which started in my hip at that time. And then it migrated to like my bladder area. And then it actually migrated up to sort of my neck area.
The neck area.
Yes, okay. As well, like the back of my neck.
Yes.
And into my throat. So when I would eat certain foods, I would get, swollen lymph nodes in my throat and really red rash inside my mouth. I would get sinus pressure, my ears would ring, and I would get really bad anxiety. And so, yeah, and all of this, it didn't all occur at once. It sort of happened, over time. I remember I think it was 2018 or 2019, during the summertime, I actually ended up in the ER because I felt like my throat was closing, and I was admitted there, and, they ran a ton of tests, blood work, CAT scan,
and they found what? Nothing.
They did not find anything. It was very, very, very frustrating. And they sent me home, and told me to just follow up with my doctor, which I had been doing.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, let me try different specialists. And so, I had gone to a number of different specialists, a urologist, a gastroenterologist, I saw a nutritionist, a gynecologist, a rheumatologist.
Rheumatologist, why? You had any joint issues?
I did have some joint pain, yes.
Like where?
Specifically in my knees for some
Okay.
reason. Yeah. It was specific on one side. So a lot of the pain stemmed from one side. It was my right hip, my right knee. And so yeah, I saw a rheumatologist because, as you talk to people, they say, well, maybe it's autoimmune. There's all
Right.
these, there's all
Right.
these autoimmune diseases that people don't even know about. And so I did, he ran a number of autoimmune markers on me, and none of them came back,
Significant.
positive for
Yeah.
anything. It was, I was sent away saying everything's fine.
Why gastro? Why did you see a gastroenterologist?
So I was having some bloating and some digestive issues. I would get
Okay.
pain sometimes when I would eat. And so they ran some tests as well and said that I had SIBO at the time.
Right. So SIBO, for those watching, SIBO is a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And actually, Sherry, I remember you mentioning pretty severe liver pain.
Yes, yes, as well. On the right side, yes, as well. Your liver, I think, is on the right side,
Yes,
right?
it is. Yeah, liver and
So
gallbladder.
yeah, yeah, so I was having,
When
it
would you
was,
experience that the sharp liver, gallbladder, region pain?
I can't remember exactly when it started, but it was definitely still there by the time I started, we started talking.
Okay.
It was bad to the fact that I couldn't even exercise. It would exacerbate it. And so I had stopped doing that. I was trying different diets at the time. I was vegan for a year, and I went back and
Yeah.
forth. Um, and so, nothing that I was doing was helping
It must
at
have
all.
been scary, not
Yes, it
know.
was very frustrating and scary. And, I really didn't know what was wrong. So it was very scary at the time.
You ended up going to a local specialist for your gastro intestinal issues. And please go ahead.
Yes. So she was treating me for my gastro issues and also running blood work every so often. I had a mold test done as well during that time, which came back positive
Uh,
um, for, aspergillus, I think it was.
okay.
And she had then referred me to you. And that's
Okay.
sort of, yeah.
Right. And I remember when you came to me, we started by doing a whole lot more testing, and we found, a lot of concerns. Do you remember any of the tests? What stood out for you?
Um, yeah, I remember the test that you ordered, I
Yes,
guess.
yes,
So yeah, I remember the nasal swab test. And then also a gut test,
yes,
which you ran, which was great. Um, and I also did the testing around my house as well for the mold to
yes.
see if the same molds that came back positive for me was also found inside the house as well.
Yeah.
So,
So we were able to narrow things down. We did the nasal swab. We got positive results, meaning you had issues, as well as the gastro test also showed up with several issues and infections and what have you, which
mhm.
we treated. Now, How did you manage with the herbal protocol? I mean, the herbal protocol is, it's easy enough once you get used to it, but
Yeah.
it's extensive, it's customized to all of your specific issues, and it's all natural. So it is important to follow the steps one by one, sorry, in order for success. So how did you make out with the herbal protocol, and what improvements have you seen?
So, like you mentioned, it was extensive. It was a lot, but I had a lot going on. So I expected that, right? There were so many different herbals that you had put me on, and I remember you told me to just start slowly.
Right.
So I was very nervous about that, and I started very, very slowly. And some of them, literally like additional drop every day, right? So it took me several months to work up to what the protocol was, because there were so many different ones that I needed to take, and I wanted to see which ones would affect me, if at all, differently. So, I remember one of them gave me a little bit of headaches. I think it was the neuro one. I would take that, and I found that I had some headaches with that, but that subsided. As you kind of work up, I guess your body gets used to it. And it was much easier. I had some other symptoms too as I was working up in the protocol. Had some strange dreams, which was weird. During, when I started increasing one of them, I can't remember which one that was, but again, as your body adjusts to it, you just sort of, get better. And I found a lot of my symptoms were, dissipating, which was amazing. I would have these strange little symptoms pop up, and then as my body adjusted to it, I think it helped me overall. I remember the liver pain that I was suffering was like a very sharp stabbing sort of pain. And as I started the protocol, it got a little bit worse, maybe one day, and then I felt like the next day it was literally gone. It was amazing, actually. And now I rarely get pain there. I'm able to exercise again. It's wonderful. I don't have the joint pain is gone. And I don't get the migrating pain to my hip. I haven't had that at all. And I guess I've been on the protocol for almost a year now, maybe.
Yes.
And probably a little bit less. Yeah. And I think it's wonderful. When I started, I even started feeling good in the very beginning, when you just put me on the vitamins, the magnesium and the minerals, the basic vitamins. I think my body was really lacking those. And it gave me more energy, and it just made me feel, I remember saying, I just feel amazing, like even on those, it was really a difference, really, really a change. And then as time went on, I had fewer and fewer symptoms. I still have a couple, so we're still working at it. Right. But overall, it's amazing. Really. I really believe in this now. I'm a believer.
That's fantastic. And, it's really fantastic to see you laugh so freely that, things are going to be okay with you. You believe after so many years of looking for answers.
Yeah.
What you described first, you've been, I think you've been on the protocol a little under a year, like you said. Now, what you described was a Herxheimer reaction. When you said that things got a bit intense, but then the next day everything was great, much better than it was. Yeah. So that is die-off response. I have a couple of podcasts recorded on Herxheimer or die-off as we try and eliminate root causes. So it is important for the root causes to die off, right? So that you can make progress. So yeah, now sensitive people like yourself, with mast cell issues and multiple sensitivities, it is important to go low and slow. But then, what I would like for people to understand is that people who are extremely sensitive do have a chance at recovery. It is possible to get treated if you start low and slow. So, I've had very few, maybe one or two, that are very, very sensitive and that have not been able to, get adjusted to the herbal protocol, even at infant doses. And this is usually because of excessive treatment with pharmaceuticals. So when you're already sensitive and then you are excessively treated with any kind of pharmaceutical, then it becomes difficult to get adjusted to herbals, it is possible if you're patient and you know how to handle die-off, because that is the answer for long-term relief. You have to get to the root cause. One other thing I want to explain is you mentioned initial vitamins. Yes, when we have inflammation, infection, mold toxicity, all of this depletes our nutrients. And, it's not as simple as, as taking a multivitamin. Everything is customized with me. I like to listen to symptoms and then accordingly prescribe even the basic vitamins, etc. It has to be done based on your symptoms, and what's going on with you as per the labs, as per your life, what kind of demands you have, right, on a day-to-day basis, what you're looking to do, and you're still young. So I'm glad you have your energy back and a little bit of zest for life back.
Yeah, it feels good for sure.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we were able to share that Lyme disease, co-infections, mast cell, multiple sensitivities, aches and pains, joint issues, mystery symptoms,
Yes, yes, many of them. Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah. So those do have a root cause. Be sure to ask your practitioner to dig deep and find all of the triggers, all of the root causes, and eliminate them one by one.
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. And there is hope out there. Don't give up.
Yes. Yeah, most of these new illnesses, it's not really new. I mean, mold illness has been around for 2 decades now, but scientifically reaching the mainstream practitioners, it could be considered new. Like Lyme disease co-infections have been around for 30 plus years, and it's still kind of challenging to find practitioners. There's more and more every day, but experienced practitioners.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we found each other.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can't thank you enough.
All right. Well, that was really awesome to hear from Sherry, right? Amazing. All right. So that brings us to the end of today's podcast. I'm glad you could join me. Don't forget to subscribe. And I shall see you back here at the next podcast. Until then, be well, keep smiling, take care of each other. Namaste.
Thank you for joining Master Herbalist Dr. Jody A. Dashore, Director of the BioNexus Health Clinic and BioNexus Herbals, on the BioNexus Health Podcast, where we explore and share information and stories about recovering and healing from chronic and environmental illnesses such as mold biotoxin illness, Lyme disease, autism spectrum disorder, fatigue, Crohn's and colitis, Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, PANS, and more. Please help us grow our message by subscribing to our podcast channel and sharing the podcast on your social networks. For more information, visit bionexushealth.com.
Information within this video, audio, or text, collectively known as the podcast, has not been reviewed by the FDA. Nothing within the podcast is intended as or should be construed as medical advice. Information is for general informational and educational purposes only. Consumers of the podcast should consult with their healthcare practitioners for medical recommendations. Seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider. Do not disregard the advice of a healthcare provider based on any information from the podcast. The information within the podcast may contain information concerning dietary supplements or over-the-counter products that are not drugs. Our dietary supplement products are not intended for use as a means to cure, treat, prevent, diagnose, or mitigate any disease or other medical or abnormal condition.